The Supreme Court strikes down Trump's tariffs, and Prince Andrew's arrested. All that and more today on The Nathan Hale Show. Well, folks, we are back. It is February 20th, 2026, and we got a lot to cover, as always, today on this episode. I mean, we have Supreme Court decisions coming out. We have arrests being made. We have our first arrest made in relation to the Epstein files. Of all the people I thought would be arrested, I did not think that Prince Andrew would be the first one. Little spoilers ahead. And we have some other things to discuss as well. So we will get into all that very soon. I'm excited to see what some of these other Supreme Court cases will be ruled on. It is Supreme Court ruling season. We're going to get a whole slate of different cases coming out in the next few weeks, next month or so. And a lot of major cases will be decided. So I guess we should roll right into it and just start with our very first story, which is that the Trump tariffs have been ruled unconstitutional by the Supreme Court. Reuters is reporting that the U.S. Supreme Court strikes down Trump's global tariffs. So we'll read through this story and we'll kind of discuss what's going on with all this. So the U.S. Supreme Court struck down Donald Trump's sweeping tariffs that he pursued under a law meant for use in national emergencies, handing a stringent defeat to the Republican president in a landmark opinion on Friday, with major implications for the global economy. The justices, now the ruling on this was really interesting because it was not a clear-cut ruling. There were 3 conservatives and 3 liberals in the majority on this one. So the justices, in a 6-3 ruling authored by conservative Chief Justice John Roberts, upheld a lower court's decision that Trump's use of this 1977 law exceeded his authority. The justices ruled that the law at issue, the International Emergency Economic Powers Act, or IEEPA, did not grant Trump the power he claimed to impose tariffs. Quote, "Our task today is to decide only whether the power to regulate importation, as granted to the president in IEEPA, embraces the power to impose tariffs. It does not," Roberts wrote in the ruling, quoting the statute's text that Trump claimed had justified his sweeping tariffs. Trump has leveraged tariffs, taxes on imported goods, as a key economic and foreign policy tool. They have been central to a global trade war that Trump initiated after he began his second term as president. One that has alienated trading partners, affected financial markets, and caused global economic uncertainty. All that's true. All this is true so far. Roberts, citing a prior Supreme Court ruling, wrote that the president must point to clear congressional authorization to justify his extraordinary assertion of the power to impose tariffs, adding, quote, "he cannot." Democrats and various industry groups hailed the ruling. Many business groups expressed concern that the decision will lead to months of additional uncertainty as the administration pursues new tariffs through other legal authorities. The ruling did not address the issue of the government refunding tariffs that were struck down. The ruling sent U.S. stock indexes, long buffeted by Trump's unpredictable moves on tariffs, up by the most in more than 2 weeks and weakened the dollar. Treasury yields edged higher. So Trump was addressing a gathering of state governors at the White House when he was handed a note from an aide informing him that the Supreme Court decision. According to 2 sources familiar with the event, Trump appeared very visibly frustrated and told the audience that the ruling was a disgrace and that he had to do something about the courts. The sources said, speaking on condition of anonymity. I don't know what he means by he's got to do something about the courts, guys. So at the event in Georgia on Tuesday, on the eve of the ruling, on Thursday, so this was yesterday, Trump said, quote, "Without tariffs, everybody would be bankrupt. Everybody. The whole country would be bankrupt. And the language is clear that I have the right to do it as president. I have the right to put tariffs on for national security purposes." The White House had no immediate comment on the ruling. Justice Brett Kavanaugh, writing a dissent joined by fellow conservatives Clarence Thomas and Samuel Alito, wrote that the ruling did not necessarily foreclose Trump, quote, from imposing most, if not all, of these same sorts of tariffs under other statutory authorities, adding that, quote, the court's decision is not likely to greatly restrict presidential tariff authority going forward. So Trump's saying that, so we'll read that, I want to read that again. So, quote, everybody, the whole country would be bankrupt. That's what he said about the tariffs, and the language is clear on it. I hate to break it to the president, we're already bankrupt. The country's already bankrupt. We're already trillions of dollars in debt. Like, it doesn't matter if we have the tariffs or not. We're not paying off that lump sum anytime soon until we want to actually balance our budgets. Part of the Supreme Court's majority also declared that such an interpretation would intrude on the powers of Congress and violate a legal principle called the major question doctrine. The conservative doctrine requires actions by the government executive branch of vast economic and political significance to be clearly authorized by Congress. The court used the doctrine to stymie some of Democratic former President Joe Biden's key executive actions. Joining Roberts in the majority were conservative justices Neil Gorsuch and Amy Coney Barrett, both of whom Trump appointed during his first term in office. I believe that John Roberts was a George Bush appointee also, by the way. Along with the three liberal justices Sonia Sotomayor, Elena Kagan, and Ketanji Brown Jackson. Trump's tariffs were forecasted to generate over the next decade trillions of dollars in revenue for the United States, which possesses the world's largest economy. Trump's administration has not provided tariff collection data since December 14th, but Penn Wharton budget model economists estimated on Friday that the amount collected in Trump's tariffs based on IEEPA stood at more than $175 billion. Quote, the court says nothing about whether or if so, how the government should go about returning the billions of dollars that it has collected from importers, Kavanaugh, who also was appointed by Trump during his first term as president, said in his dissent. But the process is likely to be a mess, as was acknowledged at oral argument. So the U.S. Constitution grants Congress, not the president, the authority to issue taxes and tariffs, but Trump instead turned to a statutory authority by invoking IEEPA to impose the tariffs on nearly every U.S. trading partner without the approval of Congress. Trump has imposed some additional tariffs under other laws that are not at issue in this case, based on government data from October to mid-December. Those represent about a third of the revenue from Trump's imposed tariffs. IEEPA lets a president regulate commerce in a national emergency. Trump became the first president to use IEEPA to impose tariffs, one of the many ways he's aggressively pushed the boundaries of executive authority since he returned to office in areas as varied as his crackdown immigration. And okay, blah 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 blah. All right. We got a little woke going into this article a little bit, guys. We're going to skip over some of this. So Kavanaugh, in his dissent, said that IEEPA's text, as well as history and prior Supreme Court rulings, supported the Trump administration's position. Quote, the tariffs at issue here may or may not be wise policy, Kavanaugh added, but as a matter of text, history, and precedent, they are clearly lawful, Kavanaugh wrote. So it's a mixed bag. You know, I'm seeing people who are for this. I'm seeing people who are against this. I don't know what happened to I had a nice picture of the Supreme Court that was supposed to pop up right. I don't know where it went. I guess it's just going away for right now. Maybe it'll show up later. We'll see. So here's my feeling. I've always said that I stand by Supreme Court rulings. If the Supreme Court rules in a certain way, it's over and done with, right? There's nothing else we're going to do about this, right? The Supreme Court ruled this way. There's no overturning it. This is what they said. This is what they said. The laws, like, we're done with the story, right? You can feel however you feel about this. It's over with, right? It's done. I don't know what Trump's position is on saying that he needs to do something about the courts. I don't know what we're talking about there. We're talking about packing the courts. Are we talking about getting more conservative justices on the courts and expanding it out, which I'm also not in favor for? Here's my general feeling. People overall don't understand how the law works. I said what I said. People overall don't understand how the law works in America. They don't understand it. Because this happens under every presidency, that it doesn't matter who's running the Supreme Court and who's not. People are always going to be for or against a ruling depending on how it affects them, right? So under Joe Biden, a whole bunch of people, when the Supreme Court ruled on some of the various unconstitutional Biden administration actions, members of the Democratic Party, the people at large, were saying that the court was corrupt and that they needed to pack the courts and get more liberal justices on the courts. Now we're in the Trump administration. The Supreme Court says something against what Trump wants to do. Now all of a sudden conservatives are saying the exact same thing, that Supreme Court is an illegitimate body, they're corrupt, something needs to be done about this in Trump's case, right? People don't understand how the law works, right? This is going to happen. I trust the members of the Supreme Court, both liberal and conservative, to be legal scholars on the issues. And I know this might get me in trouble to say it, but I trust their judgment. I might not always agree with their judgment, especially from the liberal justices, but I have a hard time sitting here and listening to people saying that the Supreme Court is somehow corrupted or that something needs to be done about it when conservatives have the majority on the Supreme Court right now. It's 6-3 for the time being, right? And it's likely to be that way for quite a long time, especially when you have two justices on the board who, for the most part, agree with Trump, right? There are conservative justices that Trump put on. He handpicked these people out. I would trust the president to have picked the best conservative justices that were currently available in the United States to put on the Supreme Court when that time came around during his first term. I trust his judgment on that one, right? The ultimate test that we have to ask ourselves is, do we trust the people who appointed these judges to this position? I trust Trump to have found the best people for the job, and thus I trust his justices' opinions when they rule on things like this. And let's not forget all of the amazing, exceptional rulings the Supreme Court has had in the past few years. I mean, I put a short list together. Number one, Trump versus the United States granted the president's absolute immunity from prosecution for official acts with presumptive immunity for others. So this was all to keep Trump out of prison, right? Without this, it's likely that Trump could still be being prosecuted right now. Here's another one. Biden versus Nebraska. This is from 2023. So this struck down the Biden administration's student loan forgiveness program, ruling it exceeded executive authority. There's one right there. So it's a great thing. These are all within the past couple years. These are all the exact same justices that are there right now. Here's another one. Kennedy versus Bordermont School District. So this allowed a public high school football coach to pray on the field after games, protecting it as private free speech. So this guy basically prayed after a high school football game, or maybe before, depending on, whenever this happened. This was 2022, by the way, and gets sued over it because it's on... He's a school teacher in an official capacity, I'm assuming, something like that. I'd have to go and look it up further. I just remember that was a major one that happened. Here's another one. We talk about this one all the time. I think we talked about this case just last week. The Students for Fair Admissions Act versus Harvard in 2023. So this ended race-based affirmative action amongst colleges, ruling it violates the Equal Protection Clause, right? This was a big deal when this happened in 2023. Here's another one, 2022. New York State Rifle and Pistol Association versus Bruin. So this struck down New York's restrictive concealed carry law, expanding the right to carry firearms in public for self-defense. It's a big deal for gun lovers, right? And then finally, we can't forget 2022, the Dobbs decision, Dobbs v. Jackson, overturned Roe v. Wade, eliminating the federal constitutional right to abortion and returning regulations to the states, right? These are all great things, right? We're happy to have them. And these are all the exact same Supreme Court justices here as they were at the time when this ruling happened. The Dobbs decision might have been slightly different. I'm not sure if Ketanji Brown Jackson was on there in 2022. I feel like she might have been appointed in 2023, ? But either way, These are all the same conservative justices who ruled on these cases as the ones who did right now. So the question is, were they corrupt then when they ruled in these cases if they are corrupt now? When did the corruption happen if you're going to argue the Supreme Court is an illegitimate body, if it's corrupt? And this is what people are saying online, by the way. I was on Twitter earlier today looking through tweet after tweet after tweet of conservatives saying that they are pissed off about the ruling that came out today regarding tariffs, saying that the Supreme Court is corrupt, saying the Supreme Court is illegitimate. I could find many more to show. But that's the question, right? Were they corrupt when these cases happened or not? I don't think they were. I think that at least in the conservative case of these justices, I think that they were all brilliant legal minds who all have perfect authority to be there, and this is how the justice ruled. And when it really comes down to it, folks, you have to understand, it's a complicated thing, right? 3 of the conservative justices ruled with Trump's side, right? That's 3 out of the 9. It's a complicated thing. This is why we have 9 justices on the Supreme Court and not just 1 or 2, because different people can interpret laws to mean different things. And we go with the majority because the majority felt that Trump was not following the law, and the minority felt he was. So there is some grounds to stand on when you say that Trump was not breaking the law, right? But if you want to argue, that's fine. But you cannot go so far as to say that a major branch, our 3rd pillar of government in the United States, our judicial branch, the highest of which is the Supreme Court, is somehow corrupt or illegitimate because you don't like the way they ruled on something. That's just how it is. I'm sorry. I only say the truth on this show, and if you're not satisfied with that, you can tweet at me and tell me why I'm wrong. That's what's so great about America. So that's all I gotta say on that one. So let me know what you think about this. Tweet at me, send me a message, whatever. Let me know how you're feeling about all this. I feel fine. My one concern is I do agree with Brett Kavanaugh when he says that he's not sure how we're going to go about returning this money that we've already taken, or if that is going to happen at all. So that'll be interesting to see how that is executed, assuming that it does happen. So we'll see. I don't know. We'll keep you updated on all of this. And I'm sure that if there is a reason that Trump is able to continue with his tariffs, he will find them. The last thing I'll say is that I defer to Congress a lot. I would like to actually see Congress more active in a lot of these major decisions like this. I call up your congressmen and tell them that if you love these tariffs so much, call up your congressman's office, tell them how much you love these tariffs and that you want them to enact tariffs on these countries. Because it seems to me that what this ruling is ultimately saying is that the law that Trump was functioning under is meant for very specific cases, and Trump was using it very generally, is my understanding. And that in cases like this, when we're enacting tariffs on all these different countries, it's supposed to be an act of Congress to do it, not an act of the president. So call up your congressman. Tell them that you want the tariffs. If the tariffs are so popular and so good for America, every single Republican in Congress should have no issue voting to approve these exact tariffs and get them through. That's all I'm going to say. So with that, we're going to move on to our next story. So I don't often cover the Epstein. Oh, there we go. My slides are getting all mixed up. That's what happens. My Supreme Court picture in here somewhere. What's going on? Where are my slides at? Stay tuned, folks. We're going to take a brief technical delay to get my slides fixed. Okay, folks, we're back. My beautiful image of the Supreme Court that was supposed to be up the entire time I was talking. Look at these lovely faces up here. Moving on. As I was saying, back on track, we don't often talk about the Epstein files on this program. I've kind of gotten over it. There hasn't been a whole lot of new information. There's nothing that could be shown to me or not shown to me that would tell me that there wasn't a whole lot of people who were brutally hurt and injured because of Jeffrey Epstein. There's not anything you could or could not tell me that would not make me feel the way that I do, that there are a ton of Hollywood celebrities that were a part of this, a lot of huge business people a part of this, and there's nothing you could or could not tell me that would also make me not believe that so many of the elite in the world are not also a part of some secret society that worships Satan. All I'm going to say about that. So, if you know me, you know that I don't like to cover things unless something has happened, right? I don't like to sit here and talk about the Epstein files and say that people need to be arrested and that justice needs to be served. I think we all agree that that needs to happen. But I don't like wasting my time in saying that. It's just like I don't like talking about wars that are going on. For instance, Israel and Hamas, Russia, Ukraine, all that. Unless there's something to talk about, right? Unless something has happened that's major that's happened, I don't like to talk about it, right? I'm not going to sit here and just say, oh, there was more fighting that happened, more people were killed. Something happened in the Epstein case. Our first arrest happened in the Epstein case. Never would I have thought that Prince Andrew, a literal prince, he's in line for the royal crown in England, in the UK, in the United Kingdom, would be the first to have been arrested and implicated in relation to this. So police asking Andrew's protection officers what they saw or heard as part of Epstein file review. So the Metropolitan Police say it is contacting Andrew Mountbatten Windsor's protection officers, asking them to consider whether anything they saw or heard while working for the former prince may be relevant to ongoing inquiries. Separately, Thames Valley Police is continuing to search Andrew's former Windsor home, Royal Lodge, in connection with his arrest yesterday on suspicion of misconduct in public office. There has been no sign of the former prince since his release from custody and return to Stanring in Norfolk last night. As UK correspondent Daniel Sanford reports, we still don't know the specifics of why Andrew was arrested, but there's an assumption that it relates to the alleged sharing of documents within the Epstein files between Andrew and Jeffrey Epstein himself. At this stage, Andrew has only been arrested and released under investigation. He has not been charged. He has previously denied any wrongdoings in relation to Epstein. He has not responded to the BBC's request for comment on the specific allegations in relation to the release of millions of Epstein files in January. Meanwhile, the BBC understands the government is considering introducing legislation to remove Mountbatten Windsor from the line of royal succession. So, what's going to come of this? I think nothing. If the world has shown me anything, it's that when powerful people get in trouble by doing stuff, justice is never really served for them, right? Like, if you ask me, I think Andrew was totally part of this. Allegedly, I'll say he's allegedly a part of the Epstein wrongdoings. I don't want anyone coming after me. I don't want to have to be Candace Owens sitting here saying that I'm getting sued by the British government. They're trying to take me out because I'm talking badly on one of their own. But we'll see. Wow, we'll honestly see. I'm surprised of all the people that Prince Andrew is the first one to have been arrested in relation to any of this. At least, past the perpetrators of Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell. So it's a piece of news that we'll see what happens when the court cases come out. So I'm surprised. I'm surprised that this was even allowed to happen, frankly. Prince Andrew is certainly a member of the world's elite. He's a literal prince of a major country in the world. The fact that this was even allowed to happen in the first place, this picture was even allowed to have been able to take place, surprises me. It does. It makes me feel there's a little bit of hope for going after the truly corrupt people in the world. Now, I'm waiting for the arrests of people in the United States. We'll see if that ever happens or not. I honestly doubt it will. I'm just being realistic here. I honestly doubt it will. So, but I think this is a positive thing overall. I'd like to see more arrests happen. I'd like to see more justice be served for the victims of Jeffrey Epstein. And that's all I gotta say about it. All right, let's move on. So Barack Obama was in an interview earlier this week, and he was asked about aliens. And I feel like we had a whole lot of chitter chatter about aliens recently. So Trump directs the release of government alien and UFO files to multiple federal agencies nationwide. So President Donald Trump said he will direct the release of government files related to alien extraterrestrial life and unidentified aerial phenomena, saying there is tremendous interest in the issue following remarks by former President Barack Obama. You got the Barack. Trump said he would instruct War Secretary Pete Hegseth and other relevant departments and agencies to begin identifying and declassifying records tied to unidentified aerial phenomenon, UFOs, and potential extraterrestrial life, framing the move as a response to heightened public curiosity. Quote, based on the tremendous interest shown, I will be directing the Secretary of War and other relevant departments and agencies to begin the process of identifying and releasing government files related to alien extraterrestrial life, unidentified aerial phenomenon, and unidentified flying objects, and any and all other information connected to these highly complex but extremely interesting and important matters. Trump wrote on Truth Social. Quote, God bless America. Trump said abroad Air Force One that Obama revealed classified information by suggesting aliens are real, calling their remarks a big mistake and accusing Obama of disclosing secrets about possible non-human visitors to Earth. So Fox News White House correspondent Peter Doocy, or Pete Doocy? I think that's his name. Pete Doocy. Asked Trump about Obama's claim during a gaggle, guys. There was a gaggle aboard Air Force One. Whoa. During a gaggle aboard Air Force One, pressuring the current sitting president on whether he has seen evidence of non-human visitors on Earth. Quote, he gave classified information. He's not supposed to be doing that, Trump said. Quote, I don't know if they're real or not. I can tell you he gave classified information. He's not supposed to be doing that. He made a big mistake. He took it out of classified information. Former President Barack Obama appeared on Brian Tyler Cohen's podcast Saturday, where he was asked point blank whether aliens are real. Quote, they're real, but I haven't seen them, Obama said. The 44th president also dismissed the idea that extraterrestrials are being held at Nevada's Area 51, saying there is no secret underground facility, quote, unless there's an enormous conspiracy and they hid it from the President of the United States. After his comments sparked buzz online, Obama sought to clarify his remarks on Instagram. Quote, I was trying to stick with the spirit of the speed round, but since it's got an intention, let me clarify. He wrote, statistically, the universe is so vast that the odds are good there's life out there. But the distances between solar systems are so great that the chances we've been visited by aliens are low, and I saw no evidence during my presidency that extraterrestrials have made contact with us, really. Cohen also asked what Obama's first question was after taking office, prompting another alien reference. Where are the aliens? Obama joked. Saturday's appearance was not the first time late Obama addressed the topic. During a 2021 interview on The Late Late Show with James Corden, he said that after entering office, he looked into whether aliens were being studied in a secret lab and was told they were not. Still, Obama noted that officials are investigating aircraft exhibiting unusual flight patterns. There is footage and records of objects in the skies that we don't know exactly what they are, he said. We can't explain how they move, their trajectory. They did not have an easily explainable pattern. I think people still take seriously trying to investigate and figure out what it is. Doocy later asked President Joe Biden about Obama's remarks referencing unidentified aerial phenomenon, or UAPs. What do you think? Doocy asked. I would ask Obama again, Biden responded. Interest in UAPs has intensified in recent years, drawing attention from federal lawmakers and defense officials. Congress passed the unidentified and some legislation. I'm not even trying to pronounce these words. Anomalous Phenomenon Disclosure Act in 2023, and the Department of Defense established the All Domain Anomaly, or anomalous Anomalous. I'm guessing that's how it is. Be an anomaly and anomalous. It's hard for me to pronounce these sounds on my mouth. I'm not used to saying them. The All Domain Anomaly Resolution Office to further explain such incidents. So, let's be real here, folks. Let's just be realistic. I think there's aliens out there. I do. I think there's aliens out there somewhere. I think there's no way that we are the only people in the entire universe. The universe, like, people don't understand how big, just as people don't understand how the law works, people don't understand how vast the universe is. We are like one grain of sand in the entire, the entirety of the universe, the entire ocean that is the universe. There's got to be something else out there. I'm not saying it's little green men flying around in asteroids, but there's got to be at least single-cell organisms out there, if not something else, right? I don't believe there is anything else out there. It might be really, really far away. They might have technology that we don't. It's a lot. The other thing is, I gotta agree with what these guys are saying about the fact that there are flying objects in the skies that we have spotted that we don't know what they are. The United States, the country that has all the technology in it, right? Of all the countries in the world, I would expect the United States to know what the heck is flying through the sky if something crazy flies through the sky. Or at least know if someone made it here on Earth or not. I think it's telling, though, that we have a president saying that Obama is showing or is talking about classified information, right? If there are no aliens, how is he talking about classified information, right? If he's saying that aliens exist when they don't actually exist, what's the classified part of this, right? And then we go around, we start saying we're going to start releasing documents on the aliens. Well, we saw how that went with the other things that have been released, with the Epstein files, with JFK, RFK, Martin Luther King assassination, all of those. We saw what happened with all of those. The question I have is, can we be certain of the accuracy of the information that may or may not be released by the government on aliens? So I totally think that we have been visited by aliens. I totally think that they're out there. I think that there's some massive cover-up conspiracy going on. I don't know. It's one of those things that, I don't like to go down the conspiracy theorist rabbit hole publicly on the shows. It's one of those conspiracy theories that I'll stick to my guns by, and I'll say, like, I don't think there's no evidence that you could show me that would prove to me that aliens don't exist, other than... Actually, no, there's not. I totally 100% believe that aliens are out there somewhere. There's nothing you could show me that would make me believe otherwise. I do want to know, though, what are these flying objects? Like, I think that... Here's the thing. Even if they're not aliens, I think the government should still be transparent with us and tell us what the heck these flying objects were that people have seen, right? Regular people have seen them. We have video footage of them from, like, military fighter pilots saying that they're seeing these things flying that are not acting like other, like, things should. They should at least tell us what the heck is going on with this, right? Like, if all it is that we saw technology that we don't know how the heck it behaved the way that it did, just release the information. Let us as the people make our own decisions on that. So we'll see what happens. So I think it's funny, though, that Obama goes on a podcast and says that aliens are real, and then goes and retracts the statement the next day on Instagram and says, well, actually, I didn't mean that they're real or not. I haven't seen them. Wink, wink. I haven't actually seen them. I was just following the format of the podcast and saying things very quickly, right? Like, I think that's interesting. I don't know. I think it's interesting that Trump is saying that he's sharing classified information. Like, I don't know. We're getting into conspiracy theory territory, folks. Conspiracy theory alert right here on this show. I'm going to put a stop to it right now. Let me know how you feel about the aliens. Tweet at me. Tell me what you think. We got one last story to cover. we're going back to the moon, folks. It's happening. We're heading back to the moon, or going to the moon for the first time, depending on your conspiracy theories. So NASA targets March for first moon mission by Artemis astronauts after fueling test success. NASA aims to send astronauts to the moon in March after acing the latest rocket fueling test. Administrator Jared Isaacman said Friday that launch teams made major progress between the first countdown rehearsal, which was disrupted by hydrogen leaks earlier this month, and the second test, which was completed without significant seepage. I don't know what seepage is. Thursday night. Maybe it's supposed to be seepage and they spelled it wrong for the article. I don't know, guys. Go ask The Independent. So the test was a big step towards America's return to the lunar environment, Isaacman said on the social media platform X. NASA could launch 4 astronauts on the Artemis II lunar fly-around as soon as March 6th from Florida's Kennedy Space Center to keep their options open. The 3 Americans and 1 Canadian plan to go into the mandatory 2-week health quarantine Friday night. The space agency has only 5 days in March to launch the crew aboard the Space Launch System rocket before standing down till April. February's opportunities evaporated after dangerous amounts of liquid hydrogen leaked during the first fueling demonstration. Technicians replaced 2 seals, leading to Thursday's successful rerun. The countdown clocks went all the way down to the desired 29-second mark. The fixes worked, but there's still pending work, including conducting a flight readiness review, said NASA's Lori Glaze. Commander Reed Wiseman and 2 of his crew monitored Thursday's operation alongside launch controls. The astronauts will be the first to fly to the moon since Apollo 17 closed out NASA's first chapter in moon exploration in 1972. I'm excited for this, guys. I am a little bit of a space nerd. I can get into space stuff really easily, and I think this is super cool. First off, I think it is astonishing that we were able to send that. First off, let's back up for a second. I think it is astonishing that we were able to invent a mechanism to strap a human to the side of a missile and shoot them up into space and send them out to the moon. I think that's phenomenal in the first place. I think the moon landing happened. I do think it did. We have moon rocks. Like, we have pictures of space. Like, we were in the moon. The Earth is not flat. The moon is there. We were on the moon. We've been there, right? We are definitely going back to the moon. I don't believe the moon landing was faked. However, if we do end up back on the moon, and there are people who walk on the moon and come back and tell us, I'll be interested to see what the people who say that we did not land on the moon have to say about that. I'll be interested to see if they're like, well, we landed on the moon in 2026, but not, back in the 70s. I'll be interested to see what happens with that. Anyways, I'm super excited for this. I think this is going to be really awesome. I just think it's really cool that we are sending humans on a literal missile out into space, and we know how to calculate the math to put them in the exact right position to send them all the way out to the moon, which is like 300,000 miles away or something like that from Earth. Like, it's really freaking far away. The moon is a lot farther away from Earth than people realize it is. And they're going to show up there. I think that's awesome. I think that's really awesome. I think it is so cool that humans have been able to engineer stuff like this. I think that human innovation is so amazing. I think it is awesome that people like Elon Musk have been able to make rockets that can land themselves back on a pad or be caught in midair as they are landing on a platform or something. I think that's awesome. I think all this is so cool. Like, the way that we as human beings, as people who just live on this great big planet, have been able to study and analyze and understand science and physics and engineering to be able to craft these inventions like this. It's phenomenal. It's phenomenal. And the last thing we'll say is, if you're an alien out in space, the Earth has got to be just the best TV show ever to watch. Like, I live on Earth, and I'm fascinated by Earth. I can't imagine being someone who's not from Earth, watching what we're doing here on Earth and being like, oh, look, the humans are sending another missile out to the moon again. So, folks, that's all I gotta say on this week's episode of the Nathan Hale Show. We'll have a lot more to cover next week. Let me know how you feel about the tariffs. Let me know how you feel about the arrest happening, or the singular arrest happening in relation to the Epstein files. Let me know what you think about the aliens and the space stuff and everything we talked about. I'll be interested to know. But with that, you can follow me on all the social media platforms. They're running across the bottom of the screen. This show goes out every single week at 6 p.m. Eastern Time on X, YouTube, and Rumble. You can watch on all those platforms. Share this show with your friends. Let people know how great this show is, how much you love the Nathan Hale Show, how awesome my takes are. I have the best opinions on the internet. I must say, though, I know some of you have been missing my usual commentary throughout the week. I have just been so busy, guys. I have been absolutely busy and exhausted, and honestly, I've been taking a little bit of time off social media. It's been kind of one of the last thoughts I've had, and keep an eye on my Twitter feed. Like, when I see something that I want to talk about, and I want to comment on, you'll see about it if you're following me on there. But with that, folks, I have been Nathan Hale. This has been the Nathan Hale Show. We will see you again next week. Peace out.